I'm often asked by students what they should be looking for when they go to buy a guitar, what features, what sort of value they should be getting for their money. Today we're going to have a look at more advanced level of guitars, and to help us walk through the mysteries, we have Pierre from Guitars Online. Pierre, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Now, what have we got here?
Okay, I've selected a range of guitars that generally I'm asked for within advanced study range, and they basically range from a Model 7 up to a Model 10, both spruce and cedar tops, because really it's a question of whether you enjoy basses more, in which case you're going to like the sound of cedar, or you enjoy trebles more, in which case you're going to like spruce. So I've just bought a selection for you to go through and get a bit of a feel from.
So what have we got here, Pierre?
Well, that's a Model 7P Alhambra, and it's a good entry-level student guitar for advanced study because it's solid back and sides, and also, of course, has a solid top, which is a minimum that you want in a advanced study guitar. The advantage of that is the back and sides give you that extra colour that a plywood back and sides doesn't give you. So it gives you that projection, colour, and that extra quality to the tone. Although this is a solid back and sides, it's only $1,740, which previously I couldn't get a guitar for solid back and sides for under $2,700. But this is a very nice example of it, and you'll see for yourself.
Okay, shall we try?
Absolutely.
Not so bad at all.
See how it's got nice definition, balanced tone, and it's very sing-song? That's what you want, of course, and you know that. It's
Yeah, sounds great. And good value for the money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So who would be wanting to play this?
I think you'd be looking at probably somebody that is looking at a grade 5, 6, at least. Lower models do everything that you need, but at that level you're just looking for that extra punch.
Yeah. What's the next guitar we have here?
The next guitar is the Model 8P, and that's the start of the craft-made guitars. They're made by a small group of craftsmen that do nothing but that particular model, and the 8P is more muscular than the 7 in terms of the delivery of sound, because it's a rosewood back and sides, and you have that warmth and that projection and that real concert quality. It is a bit of a jump in price in that it's $3,400, but also it has that immediate pump, that real concert feel about it, as you'll see. And if you like it in spruce, it's available in spruce too. Everybody's different.
Yeah. And we talked before the difference between spruce. What would spruce give you as opposed to the?
Spruce gives you much warmer trebles. The cedar, being the darker wood, gives you beautiful basses. Not to say that spruce doesn't have beautiful basses too, but the characteristic of cedar are those warm basses, whereas spruce gives you trebles and midtones, and it also opens up and becomes, after about a year or so of intensive playing, it just opens up and it just has a whole lot of tones, much like a wine. It improves with time. Many concert players prefer spruce.
Right. Okay, let's have a quick listen to him, huh?
See the difference?
Yeah. Now that. Yeah. Very nice sound. Very nice sound. And who would be looking to play this one?
Well, if you think back to all the students you've had in the past that you put through to exams, what would you say? Who would have done much better in their grades?
Yes, I've actually tried this as an experiment. Yeah, the fellas on the better end of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my experience is that they tend to get about 20 to 30% better grades, merely because it's easier to get a good tone out of a good guitar than to get a medium tone out of what we call in Spain an orange box, which is basically a plywood guitar that's just not set up for serious playing.
Yeah. In fact, we spoke to Adam Pringle the other day, and he's well known around Sydney for having a great tone, you know, as an electric guitar player. And when we were talking to him, he said, it doesn't matter how well you play, if you don't sound good, it doesn't sound good, you know.
That's right.
And it would be the same for anything, huh?
Absolutely.
You've got to have the right equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice, luscious sound. Big sound. Big sound. Sounds good. And as we were talking earlier, you know, often, you know, the difference between the top concert guitars and the top student models is just the volume, isn't it? The actual sound is there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It comes down to the quality of the top. There's the most important thing. Then having solid back and sides. Yeah, but there isn't much in terms of tonal difference. And I know because I've gone backwards and forwards and tested it many times.
We've got a couple more here, huh?
You did? Well, in actual fact, the next model is a 9P, and I thought I'd make the point about the spruce by showing you the difference that spruce makes versus cedar. There is a difference in the construction with each one of these models too. The case is wider, so it displaces more volume. So the 9 has a bigger voice. But just for the interest of the argument, if you were to go
back to
over,
Cassie.
yeah,
Okay.
So it's a more percussive, pronounced trebles, still with warmth in the basses, but that nice bark sound. I've always believed that bark sounds beautiful on spruce.
Right. More like the lute, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, who would be more interested in this one as opposed to the cedar?
A lot of, well, it's that particular model sells very well at tertiary level. So you're talking about advanced students are looking for that extra detail and that extra volume, because the voice of the 9 is more powerful because it's displacing far more air. If you think about the top as being just like a speaker, it's just projecting more. So it's giving you far more, and it's actually doing more of the concert work for you in providing a lot of that detail.
Not better, just different.
Different. What the sort of tone that's expected more at a professional level.
So you know, you would need to think a little bit more about your playing and what sort of repertoire you're going to be doing, I suppose, when you're making these sorts of choices. And I suppose people could do with some talking through that. You know, what repertoire would suit one and the other.
Well, I think that cedar is suited very much to the Spanish repertoire because of its bassiness and its charm. Things like bark, things that use a lot of trebles, where you're looking for midtones and sweetness, I believe, sound much better on a spruce top.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the German pieces were designed, and still today most German concerts are based around spruce top guitars.
Right. Now, isn't that interesting, because flamenco guitars are made of
Spruce?
Yeah.
99% of all flamenco guitars have always been spruce.
Yeah. I wonder why they would go for spruce as opposed to the cedar.
Well, historically, when it started out, spruce was a less expensive top, but also because spruce projects more and has a more immediate sound, whereas cedar has got a quieter, bassier tone. But most guitarists through their professional life generally tend to end up with cedar and spruce, and they just use it for different parts of their repertoire.
So it's a nice bright sound. I'm quite fond of this one. What's next?
Well, next is that's the 9p. Just to make my point, this is a 10p spruce.
Moving up the range, huh?
Indeed. Again, this delivers more detail and more volume, especially across the room. It's just bigger.
Okay. Yeah, big bright sound. That
Exactly.
is, that's a big sound. Good. What are the features of this, Pierre?
Well, it's got a high-grade spruce top. It's got an Indian rosewood back and sides. As you can see, it's got an ebony fingerboard, high precision machine heads, and it just has that big volume that you'd expect of an almost concert guitar. So yeah, it's probably the most popular instrument at the high end of the market at tertiary level for Alhambra, not only here but internationally.
And your flamenco players may like to play this one?
There's a specific range of guitars that are called the F series that are built for flamenco, and because they tend to have narrower casing. The neck angle is slightly tighter, which means that the strings run much lower, and it's generally aimed at giving you a more percussive sound,
right.
Whereas the classical range is aimed at giving you that big, beefy, projected classical sound that's going to fill a concert hall. And the notes are going to be long, whereas the flamenco notes, you want them to be punchy.
Okay. Another thing I've noticed, that the action is quite high, which I like, you know, and a lot of people do like, but sometimes people, students, you know, find that a little bit hard. What would happen if we lowered the action on this?
Good point. In actual fact, yes, you can lower the action. The action for that, for the high end of the student range, is at perfect classical 12th fret height, and that's because what you're looking for is lots of projection with no unclear notes, with no rattling. That's, as you know, an examiner will mark you down as having poor technique.
And not your fault.
That's right. So generally what you can do is you can have a study height, which can be much lower, and then you can have a concert height, which is the standard classical height, which means you'll get none of those wolf notes. So yes, you can lower them. The other thing is that often people come to me and say, I've got small hands, or with a bit of arthritis. All these instruments come in shorter string lengths.
Right.
So you could get the same instrument as a 7/8 or even as a 3/4 size, and it would become very comfortable for you to play, especially for the more technically challenging pieces.
Would they, the 3/4, the smaller guitars, would they have less volume?
Generally, Alhambra seems to have managed, and not many luthiers have managed to do this. They've got the proportions of the case to the string length, so they're like a 7/8 guitar sounds exactly the same as the full-size guitars. And I know because I brought several of the concert models as 7/8. And they still have that same punch and that same volume. So yes, no, you're not losing all that much at all, but you are getting all of that comfort.
Right. How do these sell? How well do they sell?
They are the biggest seller at the advanced student range, yeah. At the low end, you tend to sell a lot of 1Cs and 4Ps. At the advanced study range, it's the 10P because of that extra projection, the volume, the quality of the tone, and the ease of playing, because the necks are very sculpted and designed to flow easily. So although, as you pointed out, it's a standard classical height, it's very comfortable to play. So it's not forcing you to actually think about the guitar. The guitar's playing into your hands.
Now, we have another here.
We do. And this is I just bought the cedar version of the one you've just played, so that people can get a bit of an idea of the difference.
Yeah, there is just a different... So it occurs to me that if you're serious, you should have one of each, huh?
Absolutely.
You'd agree
Well,
with
how many guitars do you have?
I got a lot. Causes problems with people that live with me, I suppose. But anyway... How would you describe the tone of it as opposed to the spruce?
Well, if you were comparing it to wine, I would say that the spruce is like a Chardonnay. If you were comparing it to the cedar, I would say cedar is more like a Merlot. It's mellow, it gives you that nice warmth, and it's just very, very comfortable.
Yeah. In fact, I don't know whether it's my imagination or not, but the scale, the neck seems a little bit not easy. Well, I suppose easier to negotiate than the others. Is there some difference with the neck here?
Well, there's as you go up the range, you're getting different internal structures, different necks. Just the whole. Because basically the economics of guitar making is the amount of labour that can go into making each instrument. So not only can you hear with Alhambra at each different level what that instrument is giving you, but you're actually getting that better feel. Right. And it's just becoming easier and easier to play, yeah.
So it wasn't my imagination?
No, it wasn't your imagination.
Because, it looks a little lower. Feels a little bit easier to play.
Well, each one of these guitars is made by a small group of specialist craftsmen that do nothing but that particular model.
Right. Now, I think we spoke before, these fellows actually were apprenticed to...
Well, Alhambra started making guitars 50 years ago.
Yes.
for Ramirez,
right.
Making some of the student guitars. And many high quality or high end guitars have always been made by Alhambra. So their quality control and their construction and their precision, although it's still 90% handmade, because unfortunately a guitar is not like a
car?
Like a car where you can make everything by machine. Guitars are still 90% handmade, but it comes down to years of apprenticeship. Most of these guys would have probably done nothing in their lives except make guitars. And in this case, making this particular model, doing that particular model for the last 20 years. It comes down to experience.
Yeah. Could you tell us who would be happy on this guitar?
Again, the 9s and 10s, they're generally tertiary conservatorium level guitars. Yeah.
Yeah. What would be the difference between this and a concert instrument?
Well, Alhambra also make a concert range of instruments that come above these. The final guitar in this range is the Model 11, and after that you're going into the concert range. At concert level, you're getting one superior tops. Then you've got different internal structures, sometimes very innovative, to make that guitar sound louder. At the luthier level, I've actually brought several of them in, and their internal structure is no longer just a fan bracing. It's quite different with tone bars, giving you extra projection and sensitivity. Then you go up to models like the Villa Plana, and some of those models have double backs and sides to aid in the projection and get much better resonance. But those models, because they're entirely handmade and crafted, you can only make about 16 or 14 of those a year, even if you're the best luthier in the world. Whereas these are an affordable guitar that can be purchased at a student level. But yes, at the concert level, there's a whole range of people that use what's called the Maestro range of Alhambra.
As a price, what would I be looking at to spend to get this honker?
Okay, you'd be looking at $3,900, yeah, which is a reasonably priced tertiary level instrument. A lot of people can spend up to $25,000.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed some. I noticed some volume there. You know, there's volume.
But there's also detail.
Yes.
And you're not losing the difference between traditional Spanish construction methods, which is generally fan bracing, and things like lattice. Is lattice gives you lots of volume, but doesn't give you a great deal of detail. Yeah. It's much like the difference between an LP and, say, CD, in that the CD is giving clarity, but it's also shaving off the tops and the bottoms of the notes, which is not something that you want when you're trying to play classical guitar. I
wonder what it is about the tone bar that does that.
If we come back to the simile that the most important part of the guitar is the harmonic top, what you're trying to do is you're trying to give that top enough stiffness to be able to perform, but also enough freedom to vibrate, right? Because part of the construction of a Spanish guitar is what's called the Spanish heel,
yes,
whereby the sides are built into the neck. So it's vibrating from end to end, and this is what's giving you the extra richness of the notes, as well as the volume. So there is a lot that goes into the craft of guitar building.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. How long have luthiers been using that tone bar?
Tone bars, I remember Antonio Torres in the late 19th century was already using them, and he was the one that initially said that the harmonic top was the most important part of the guitar, and because previously to that they used to put all sorts of fancy decorations on that top, because the belief was that the back and sides were the important part in projecting. But he proved that it wasn't, because he made a cardboard guitar with cardboard back and sides. And from then on, the principles of guitar building have been getting steadily more settled. But guitar building itself goes back to at least, the origins are known to have started from Greece and gone through the Arab world, so it's been evolving over hundreds of years. But the guitar itself, in its current structure, has been pretty much the same since Torres set down those final principles in the 1800s, late 19th century.
For Tarraga?
Yes. And it's from then that the guitar repertoire just blossomed.
Yeah. And I heard someone say once that, you know, even in the early 1800s, we actually don't know that much more than they do, or did then, about tone production on the guitar.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we've, you know, it is quite a tradition we're playing around with when we play the guitar, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to know all that stuff.
But there's lots of people pushing the boundaries all the time.
Yeah.
Alhambra themselves have 3 different units that do nothing but one, build, but also R&D in terms of new ways of internal construction of guitars. How do you get better projection and better tone without sacrificing anything? It's just pushing the barriers all the time.
Let's have another listen to this, huh? Thanks, Pierre. I got a lot out of that, so I'm sure everybody else did. Well, that's it for this time, and we'll look forward to talking a little more about choosing a guitar.